Greetings and welcome to another Introduction to Python video with Gwinnett County Public Library. In this video, we're going to do an exercise where we take a string, which is a variable, which is a series of characters. We're going to take that string and reverse it, okay? And then we're going to check to see if it's a palindrome. What's a palindrome? So a palindrome is just think of it as a sequence of words. It could be a word or it could be a phrase that reads the same way backwards and forwards. Okay, so a palindrome could be something like stats. Okay, S-T-A-T-S. If we were to spell this backwards, what would it be? S-T-A-T-S. It would be the same thing. Another one, Bob, right? B-O-B, backwards, forward, B-O-B. Okay? So let's go ahead and learn how to reverse a string. Now there's multiple ways you can do this in Python, easier ways as well, but I want to reverse it using a loop, a while loop, just so we can get some more practice with while loops. So the first thing that I want to do is ask the user for a word. So I'm going to create a variable called word equals input, enter a word. Okay. And whatever's in the quotes there after input is going to be presented to the user. And because we're using the input keyword, the user is going to have the opportunity to enter a word. Once they hit enter, then whatever they entered is assigned to our variable word. So let's go ahead and check that to make sure it works. I'm going to hit run, and now you see on the bottom it says enter a word, and I'm going to say basket. And nothing was, there was no output. Okay, why? Well, it's because we haven't told it to do anything with the word yet. But it did assign basket to the variable word, and we can check that because down here in the console I can say WORD, enter, and you see that it returns basket. Basket was assigned to word. Okay, just remember the variables, just think of it as a container, okay? It contains something. All right, so I said I wanted to use a loop, and in the loop, I want to take the last letter of the word and start creating a reversed word, okay? So I'm going to create a variable called reversed word equals, and it's just going to be an empty string, nothing in those, in between those quotes. Now if I add a letter to the reversed word, it's going to appear here. And here's just a quick example. I'm going to comment this out. And let's do reversed word plus B, and we'll do, I'm just going to call this new word. New word equals reversed word plus B. Okay, I'm going to run it, and I'm going to print new word, and you see that B is printed, right? Now let's do that again. I'm going to do reverse word plus B. What if I do plus O? And we type in new word, and you see now Bo is there plus a B, so Bob, right? Run, we'll say new word, Bob. Okay, so this is the way it functions. If you have a string and you add another string, like B, O, and B, they're all three of them are strings, it just adds them there. So we're taking a reversed word, which has nothing, and then we're adding letters to it. So In my loop, what I want to do is take the last letter of each word and add it to the reversed word. So another thing, and we talked about this a little bit when we were talking about lists, but each character in a string is assigned an index. So let's take, I'm just going to go ahead and enter something for reversed word for now. I'm just going to say basket. Okay. And I have a word, I have this input commented out because I don't want it to be in the way. Okay. Now, if I say print reversed word and then in brackets put 0, then what's going to be returned is the index of 0. And in this case, B is an index of 0, A is 1, S is 2, K is 3, E is 4, T is 5. Okay, run it. You see B was returned. Now let's do 3. Run. K is returned. Why? Well, we start with 0. B is 0, A is 1, S is 2, K is 3. Okay. This also works backwards. So I'm going to say -1. So reversed word with an index of -1. If I run it, it's going to be T. -2, it's going to be E. -3, it's going to be K. So that's how we can start taking characters from a string. Okay. So now let's create our loop. Now remember, with a while loop, it's going to run forever until a condition is met. So we want to keep count of how many iterations we have. So I'm just going to create a variable called counter and set it to 0. That's just an integer. And while I'm at it, I'm going to go ahead and uncomment word because we want this to be part of our code now. So now let's jump into our loop. So I'll say while counter is less than len word. Okay, so what is len? Len is the length. Okay, so what is the length of the word? So if it was Bob, this would be 3. If it was basket, we'll see, we have B-A-S-K-E-T. There's 6 characters, so this would be 6. This is just a way to determine how many characters are in a string. Okay. Now what I want to do is we need a way to increase the counter with each iteration. So I'm going to say counter equals counter plus 1. Okay. And then that way, when every time our loop loops through, we're adding 1 to the counter. So then at some point, we're not going to be less than the length of the word. Now, I did this counter equals counter plus 1. You may see this in Python and in other languages as counter plus plus. That's the same thing. That's just saying counter equals counter plus 1. We're going to go back, do counter equals counter. It's just easier to go back and look at the code, especially when you're starting. So counter equals counter plus 1. Now I want to create a variable that's going to hold on to the letter that we're focusing on in the iteration. So I'm just going to call this letter, and I'm going to equal it to word with an index of -counter. So you probably see what's happening here now. The first time the loop runs, counter is going to be 1. So word with a -1 is going to take the last letter. Now, when it loops again, counter will be 2. So it'll be word index -2. It'll be the second to the last letter. Okay? So that's how we're going to be pulling the character from the string. And now what I want to do is I'm going to say reversed word equals reversed, got to be sure to spell it right, reversed word plus letter. Okay, and then that's going to add that letter to the word. And now I'm going to break out of the loop. I can break out of the loop by just hitting enter and then backspace, because remember, everything in the loop is going to be indented, right? Everything that's indented belongs in this loop. I want to be out of the loop. I want this to run once we're outside, so I'm just starting here, and I want to print. And what do I want to print? The reversed word. Okay, let's test it. I'm going to run, enter a word. Let's stick with basket. And there we go. So I entered a word, basket, and now we see T-E-K-S-A-B. Okay. The loop runs until every character has been assigned to the letter and added to reversed word. Now, I want you to see what's happening behind the scenes. So I'm going to document what's happening. So with each iteration, I'm going to say print the current loop count is plus, and this is just concatenation. We went over this in Intro to Python 1, counter. Okay. Now here with letter, I'm going to say print the current letter in the loop. Or let's say this. The letter added to reversed word is, and we're going to plus letter. And then after, I'm just putting some spaces here to make it clean. After reversed word here, let's do print the current state of the reversed word is, there we go. All right. So let's run it. And then you'll see everything step by step. Enter a word. Let's type in thunder. And we get an error. Why did we get an error? So it's telling us that in line 7 that we can't add an integer in a string. Shame on me. So if you remember, we went over this in Intro to Python. It's either the first or second video. But since in line 7 I have a string, the current loop count is, and I'm adding an integer to it, I need to make sure that I convert this integer to a string. So I'm just going to say str in front of counter, and then put counter in parentheses, and that's just going to change that from an integer to a string only in this line. Okay, now let's run it. Basket. Oh no, we did thunder, right? Thunder. All right. Now I'm going to pull this up some so you can see. So enter a word. I typed in thunder. I didn't spell current loop count, but you get the point. The current. All right. So the current loop count is 1. The letter added to the reversed word is R. The current state of the reversed word is R. The current loop count is 2. The letter added to the reversed word is E. The current state of the reversed word is RE. The current loop count is 3. Added D. Current state is D. And so on, so on, so on, until we get to the loop count of 7, which is now the number of characters in Thunder, right? THUNDER. So our loop will stop after this iteration. The letter added to the reversed word is T. The current state of the reversed word is red noho. All right. so there you go. So that's just kind of what's going on behind the scenes. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and move the shell down, or console, whatever you want to call it. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and delete those lines where I printed out what was going on behind the scenes. And now I want to check if the reversed word is a palindrome. So we're just going to check to see if the word is equal to the reversed word. So we can just do an if statement. If word equal reversed word colon print palindrome. And we'll just do else colon print not a palindrome. Okay. So let's test it. Let's run it. And what's a palindrome? Oh, stats. So STATS. It's a palindrome. Now let's try it again. Let's do basket. Not a palindrome. Okay. And why? Because it's checking to see if the word is equal to the reversed word. And there you go. So there's just a fun way to reverse a string and then check to see if it's a palindrome. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to check out our other videos on Gwinnett County Public Library's YouTube, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the latest video. Thank you.